We need regular daily restoration, regular weekly restoration. And then we need those rhythms of vacations, right? And I think the problem is we don't really do the daily. We don't really do the weekly well. And we just lean on that week-long vacation like it is going to be this magical restorative time. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I am the founder of Forward Partners, and I am joined, as always, by my partner in podcasting, Emily Grace Deal. Emily Grace Deal, what are we talking about today?
Last episode, we talked about how to recognize burnout.
Yes.
So if I'm a leader who's burnt out and fighting that.
You are that. You check the boxes. You go, I am burned out.
If I'm that leader, how do I fight it? What do I do?
Yes. Now what? And so the way we think about this is it is honestly a battle with burnout. This is a daily thing that we are in the middle of, right? And we have to set ourselves up in a position to fight and win that battle every single day. And, you know, we were just talking off mic about the fact that this is not really a war. Right. In a war, you win at some point, right? Or you lose. And there's final, it's done, right? This is something as leaders we always have to be fighting. And I think there's three elements to fighting the battle with burnout. The first one is self-awareness. Right. If we don't have any self-awareness, it's going to be really hard to grow. It's going to be really hard to understand how we're actually doing.
Yeah, I like to think of that as that the more self-aware you are, the more real time. So you can kind of catch it quicker.
Exactly. I love that. The more you can spot things in real time and be able to do that. The second one is purpose. You got to have a bigger purpose driving you than just money or promotions or whatever. You
take a little bit of that attention off the task list and a little bit more onto the actual mission.
Exactly, onto the bigger picture. And then the last one, this is one I really want to dive into, is rhythms.
Okay.
We are rhythmic creatures. We are designed for certain rhythms. And so much of the way we have, as a society, thought about leadership and thought about success, it ignores the natural rhythms that we are designed with.
Right.
And so I think we want to think about rhythms, and there's three different categories. So if leaders, if you are trapped in burnout, if you are that person who's like, oh man, I can't get out of bed, let's talk about rhythms. And there's three things I want you to really focus in on. The first one is rhythms of connection. When we think about burnout, we always have the image of the person trying to push the boulder up the hill. Alone. And so we need rhythms of connection with other people, with fellow leaders, with people, you know, you and I talk about this all the time where if I'm struggling, I need people like you. I need people like my mentors and people that...
If you feel alone, it's that reaching out. It's that courage to say, hey, here's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, because one of those signs of burnout was a consistent sense of loneliness. And so the way through that is usually not somebody recognizing it and reaching down and scooping you out of the burnout curve.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean, maybe in some scenario, but...
It most likely isn't. But the reality is the way out is raising our hand and saying, I need help.
Right.
And when we are willing to do that, have the vulnerability and voice that I need help, the reality is we're going to find help. Almost 100% of the time, unless we are a horrible human.
Waiting for it, it's going to take a lot longer.
Exactly. And so we need to be able to say, I need help, and surround ourselves with other people. People that can speak into our lives, people that can encourage us and bring wisdom. We all need that desperately.
And I like the rhythm piece. So it's not just being connected, it's the rhythm of that. And so like setting up the coffee date, setting up the time to call someone, putting it on your calendar, making it a thing, and not just assuming, oh, we haven't talked for 3 months, but we will, you know.
That is a very good point, because the reality is the people in your circle are also busy, right? And they're also wrestling with their own challenges, especially if they're leaders. And so there are going to be those times when we have to be very, very intentional about it. Like I have 2 different coaches. I know when I'm meeting with those coaches. I have a few mentors on a regular basis. We are putting it on the calendar. We are gathering. And then throughout the day in my normal rhythms, I'm gathering with leaders. And so we need that rhythm of connection, not just individual connection.
Because especially when you're getting burnt out, right? Everything is feeling overwhelming and it's feeling like it's never ending. So that's when you're going to reach out and, you know, be like, hey, you have to have that intention like kind of set up too.
Yeah, you almost want to set it up ahead of time is the goal, right?
Right, because you're not going to do it when you're burnt out.
Yeah, it becomes a lot harder.
Yeah.
So rhythms of connection. Leaders, if you're burned out, focus on that rhythm of connection. The second one is rhythms of creation. We have a lot to do with how we show up every day. We can create a different version of us. And so if we are burned out, often we are creating more burnout. And so really what this looks like practically, it's easy to say, well, create a new version of you. Practically what this is when you get up every day, how are you investing in your leadership health?
Right.
And we have a very simple definition of healthy leadership. You are spiritually, emotionally, and physically oriented towards health.
Yeah.
That is the goal. That's what we're after. And so what are those activities and choices and actions that orient you towards health spiritually, emotionally, and physically?
Yeah, we're not just saying do better.
Yeah.
There's actually some like real things you can do
to
do that.
And we have to focus on those, knowing that when we invest in those things, we are investing in us. We are investing in our leadership, and we are making sure that we are set up to then go deal with the challenges. Because ultimately what drags us into burnout is our own unhealthy mindsets and actions and uncontrollable circumstances. Our entire day is uncontrollable circumstances.
Yes.
And so if we show up as unhealthy, we're going to respond to those in an unhealthy way. The rhythms of creation is ultimately about creating a healthy mindset and healthy actions so that our responses then to those challenges is healthy.
Creating is that intentional choice. You're intentionally choosing instead of letting it just happen for you.
Yeah. So regular rhythms of connections with others, regular rhythms of creation every single day. And the last one is rhythms of restoration. We have to learn to rest. If we are burned out, the way forward is not more hard work. Is probably a little bit less. It is learning to genuinely be restored. Because here's what we find is once we're restored, once we actually rest, we're able to go work hard again.
Right. And we're not talking about, okay, you're tired, go sleep.
Yeah.
That's not always what the thing is.
And that's where the rhythms of restoration comes in. We need daily rhythms of restoration. We need kind of those moments throughout the day, in the evening, whatever it is, where we're able to focus on things that bring life back to us.
Yeah.
We need weekly rhythms of restoration. We need one day a week, and we may have to work up to it, right? People are like, a day a week to rest? Are you insane? I've got kids and all this other stuff. And we need a day to rest, to truly focus on activities that restore life to us, especially if we're in leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, right? So, like, if I just left my rest up to, it'll happen, it would never happen.
It's never going to happen,
It's not going to. Yeah.
And so we have to establish those rhythms with intentionality. And so maybe it's not a day. Maybe at first it's a 2 hours or a half day or whatever to get to that day of rest. So we need regular daily restoration, regular weekly restoration. And then we need those rhythms of vacations, right? And I think the problem is we don't really do the daily. We don't really do the weekly well. And we just lean on that week-long vacation like it is going to be this magical restorative time. And it's not, because we're putting too much weight on it.
Right. And then you get back and you're like mad because it didn't work the magically way you thought it was going to.
But if we have established those regular rhythms daily and weekly, then the vacation has more room to work. We're not putting so much weight on it. And so ultimately that is what we're after: rhythms of connection, rhythms of creation, rhythms of restoration. And that's a very simple breakdown of some very complex ideas, right? But ultimately getting out of burnout, we've got to figure out what are those next steps.
Well, and that's really, I mean, a bigger piece is you could just say, don't be burnt out, like, okay, well then just go do the good things you need to do to not be burnt out. And it's like, okay, well, what is that? And
what does that look like?
This is a little bit of that breakdown to where you can figure it out.
Absolutely. This is what that looks like. Right. And so for our listeners and our watchers, I almost say readers every time, our leaders who are watching this, and you checked the boxes last time as we talked about burnout, and you're like, yes, I am this, it's all consistent. I am struggling to get out of bed and I don't know what to do. Focus on rhythms of connection. Surround yourself with other leaders. Find people to speak into your life and to bring life back to you. You need rhythms of creation every day. Are you intentional about the version of you that shows up? Are you creating health for yourself before you go deal with the uncontrollable circumstances? And rhythms of restoration. Are you finding daily, weekly, and then quarterly or periodic restoration through vacations? That daily, through finding ways to bring life back to you, even in little moments. Weekly, are you taking a day of genuine rest? And then on those vacations, are we actually disconnecting? So if we can follow those rhythms, connection, creation, and restoration, that is the path out of burnout. And so I would encourage you, if you check those boxes, start focusing on these areas. And as you do it, send us questions. As you try some of it and it doesn't go well, send that to us. Let us kind of walk with you through this process. It's called Forward Partners because we want to point the way forward. And then we want to partner with you in the process. This podcast is a part of it. Your interaction is the other piece of that. We were happy to jump in. If people want to send that to us, where do they send that to?
To lab@forwardpartners.net.
Lab@forwardpartners.net. If they want to find us on the socials, we're always talking about healthy leadership, thriving, burnout. Where do they do that?
@ForwardPartner.
@ForwardPartner, all the major socials. Thank you for helping us dive into this conversation. John, thank you for producing. Wilco Workspaces, thank you for the partnership on this podcast. We will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.